As the mom of 15 children, I have this in agreement with Elon Musk. I don't agree with everything, but I have this in agreement, and that is that we need more babies. And I think I can prove that, not only because of moral and spiritual reasons, but also scientifically, that the world needs more human beings. If you're interested in this subject, stay tuned. That's what we're going to talk about today. Hi there, sweet mommies. This is Sherry Hayes with MomDelights.com. I am, like I said, the mom of 15, and I've been homeschooling for over 3 decades. And certain things really have been in the forefront of my mind for many years. One of them being the overpopulation myth, right? Okay, so I'm not a woman sitting here, like, I'm not an expert demographer. I'm not trying to figure out ways that I can propose some kind of a policy that will end all of society's ills, that we can just foist on the population. No, I'm also not a young woman with butterflies in my head thinking how peachy it would be to have a huge family. Lovely. No. I'm a woman, mostly a sane woman, most days. And I've given birth to 15 children, and I've raised those 15 children. I only have one left, okay? And I've spent my life in this work. So I think that I have some room to speak on this subject. Now, I'm not suggesting that family or children, especially lots of children, will fulfill all dreams and solve all societal ills, okay? I know firsthand that children are messy, and they're smelly, and they're disruptive. They cost a lot, even if you do cook from scratch and shop at Goodwill. Okay. Too often they take all of your loving care and throw it back in your face as their thank you. But there is more to that. There's much more. There is so much more, in fact, that it would take 1 million podcasts to tell you about the exponential benefits of doing things God's way. Among these are the joy of caring for someone else outside of yourself, and the satisfaction of doing something good for its own reward, and that's even if no one notices. Okay. Then there are the material and emotional bennies, which would make a great list. I could list them here, and I will be listing lots of them. Believe it or not, there are even loads of health benefits. Yes, there are health benefits to having more children. And there are the spiritual sides. Don't forget that. I learned this from Charles Spurgeon's Treasury of David, a commentary on the Psalms, especially Psalms number 127 and 128. And I think I'll read a passage from that. Just a second. So this is one from a set of 3 called the Treasury of David. It's by Charles Spurgeon. He made his own commentary on the Psalms, and then he gathered the commentary of different people on the Psalms. And for Psalm 127, verse 3, where it says, "Lo, children are an heritage of the Lord," he gathered this from, let's see, his name is Adam Clark, is who wrote this. And he says, "That is, to many God gives children in place of temporal good. To many others he gives houses, lands, and thousands of gold and silver, and with them the womb that beareth not. And these are their inheritance. The poor man has from God a number of children without lands or money. These are his inheritance. And God shows himself their father, feeding and supporting them by a chain of miraculous providences. Where is the poor man who would give up his 6 children with a prospect of having more for the thousands or millions of him who is the center of his own existence, and has neither root nor branch, but his forlorn, solitary self upon the face of the earth? Let the fruitful family, however poor, lay this to heart. Children are an heritage of the Lord, and the fruit of the womb is his reward, and he who gave them will feed them. For it is a fact, and the maxim formed on it has never failed, wherever God sends mouths, he sends meat. Murmur not, said an Arab to his friend, because thy family is large. Know that it is for their sakes that God feeds thee." And this is just full of that stuff. You can get this for free online. You can read it online, this Treasury of David. And I'll try to remember to link that below. I do have it already included in the blog post on my website, momdelights.com. 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 I have the free version of this already linked on that blog post. So if you go and read it, you'll find it there. So now let me continue with my notes. Now, I feel led to do a sort of homeschool unit study on this whole idea of needing more babies. First, I want to lay a solid foundation, both scientifically and biblically. Then I want to get into the practicals of it, the practicalities, such as the benefits of sexual morality and where did our ideas of reproductive rights come from? We'll go through all that history. That'll be a lot of fun. I love that. Okay, I've got lots of resources, and if you have some time, if you want to take some notes, that'll be a lot of fun for you. Okay, pregnancy and childbirth. I'm going to share with you my experiences in my years and things I've learned and gleaned about pregnancy and about childbirth that I hope will be helpful to you. Right now, while I'm reading this to you, while I'm talking to you, I have 2 daughters. One is about to give birth and the other is pregnant, soon to give birth herself. And I forget, like it's 18 and 19 grandchildren they will be having. Okay, so I'm having lots of conversations about pregnancy and childbirth right now, and young childhood too. Okay, affording children, we'll talk about different ways to afford children, right? And rearing children, we'll talk about ways you can raise your children. And I don't know, this will be totally anecdotal, okay? But I think I have some to share, and I will try to leave room for all the areas that I'm not an expert in, or like people, everybody has a different way God's leading them, different family ways, all kinds of stuff. So I hope there will be a lot of grace that's conveyed, and not there's just one way you do it, this is the way I always did it and it always worked, and I'm not going to do that stuff. Okay, so don't worry. Anyway, I believe in producing this series, I will be doing my part in helping bring God's kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. That's my hope anyway. So in my notes, after that great long introduction, hope you're still here, I actually get into the meat of what I want to talk about today. So now, a number of years ago, I remember watching a mainstream media news broadcast. This is before the internet, okay? This is before we had other choices. We had, 3 or 4 news agencies back then. I think maybe Fox was in its very beginning stages. And on the news, on the evening news, I mostly ignored it, but every once in a while you'd catch a glimpse of something. And I glimpsed this one segment of this news broadcast where they said that day the 6 billionth child was born in Calcutta, India. And then they cut to a picture of, a film of the streets of Calcutta where people were laying on the streets, and it was all crowded and it was all, broken down and very, very awful looking. And so the idea was that 6 billionth child was born in Calcutta in those kinds of conditions. Now, we were supposed to just accept that, we're supposed to just accept that, it had to be in Calcutta. And why would they choose the most rundown, most crowded city in the world at that time? Well, we have, Mexico City, and, there's all kinds of places they could have chosen, but they chose Calcutta, okay, for the obvious poverty. So they chose Calcutta as the place where this 6 billionth child was born. Okay. There are a lot of questions that came up in my mind. First of all, how do they know that the 6 billionth child was born that day? I mean, did they have their finger, remember this is before the internet and everything, did they have their finger on every child being born in every place in the whole world, including igloos in the North Pole and little huts in the African Sahara? I mean, did they have their finger on every child being born and know that the 6 billionth child was born in Calcutta on that day? How could they possibly know that? And they knew that if they picked Calcutta as the place where supposedly the 6 billionth child was born, that it would put in our minds the world is overcrowded. And because it's overcrowded, there's poverty and people are dying in the streets. You see, it was like a psychological, it was a psyop meant to convince us that overpopulation is a real problem and we should be doing something about it. Okay. Now, where did this whole thing start? Okay. I've actually heard evidence that back in Sumeria, where they were doing the first cities and the first societies, guess what? They were concerned about overpopulation of the world then. I'm not kidding you. I think that's hilarious. But anyway, let's go on. Okay, here is some truth. Countries around the world are not being overpopulated. In fact, we are in the process of a huge depopulation of the earth. Very few countries are at replacement or above. Okay, now what is replacement? Basically, in order to keep a population at the same level of numbers that you are, right? To keep it even, each couple that comes together procreates to create a child, right? To produce a child, I guess you would say. They have to produce 2.1 children. Now, the 2 children covers both the male and the female, right? So if they died, then there's 2 to take their place. But you have to have the 0.1 because every so often you have to have a 3rd child just to take care of the death of one of the children, you know, childhood death and etc. Okay, so it's 2.1 children per procreative couple. Not necessarily that they're married or anything, but when they come together to create a child, then they can keep the population level. Now, what we have around the world is below replacement level. And this sounds like, oh, well, ho-hum, whatever. It's just numbers, right? But I'm going to show you some ways that this really is very concerning. Okay, my notes are stapled together. All right. Now let's look at different birth rates of the nations on the earth with new eyes, okay? For instance, the lowest birth rate of any nation of the world right now is in South Korea, okay? They are at 0.72 births per person. This is less than 1 child per couple, okay? The South Korean population in the next 50 years will be cut in half. So this right now is 2024. In 2074, right now their population is 51.71 million. And in just one generation, it could be only 33 million. That's almost half, okay? So in just one generation, they're going to have their population because they're at 0.7 population rate. Okay, and there are other examples. The U.S. birth rate is right now 1.66 per couple. Now this means that in the next 50 years, the population will be cut by 1/6. All right. In pure mathematical terms, now this is out accounting for immigration. This means the current U.S. population of 334.9 million will be only 278 million. There's just an idea. Okay. And why is population important? There are so many reasons why this is such an important issue. Okay. Now there are material and non-material reasons. All right. But I'm going to bring out some obvious ones that I think that you will really relate to you, okay? Young people do all the heavy lifting in a society, right? They have the strength and the vigor necessary for the more physical jobs, including farming and construction. Okay, young minds are also more innovative. They are less set in their ways and are more open to doing things differently. So they can figure out answers to problems more easily, okay? It takes people, families with children, who need goods and services to fuel the world economy. That's what they're saying, right? So you have to have people to buy things and to need things in order to give other people jobs, okay? Now that a lot of our economic woes are related to population decline, and it's only going to get worse, okay? So people are saying that a lot of our problems are related to the dearth of people, okay? A country without young people cannot defend itself from outside attack. Now, understand that the median age currently in South Korea is 45. That means that half the people are above 45 and half the people are below 45 years in age. All right. Now, in Italy, has been declining for many, many years. Okay. The average age in Italy is 46.6 years. And now, so 25% of the population in Italy is 65 years or older. That's a quarter of their population is older. Okay, so why is that important? Because as there are more aged people, then it puts a greater burden on the younger people to take care of them. In Japan, 29% of the people are over 65, and they are at 1.26% replacement right now. I'm not sure how that works per thousand, but it's 1.26% or per couple. Besides all this, it takes people to fight a war. Like I mentioned, war is a vigorous activity. It is for the young. But if a country is running out of young people, who will defend it? It takes people to manufacture the goods and perform all the services we associate with having a good life. Why is Japan at the forefront of developing robots? It's because they're running out of people. Okay, and they are looking to develop mechanical replacements. But isn't population... Okay, now we ask the question, but isn't depopulation good for the earth? Not so much. Okay, so I have a history with this going back to the 60s and 70s. Okay, this is when the idea that we were on this blue marble floating in space, we were so totally unique in the whole universe. And, if we didn't take care of our blue marble, we had no hope because, God was dead. Remember, we talked about that. Okay, but now from that time forward, things changed. There was a gentleman, his name was Paul Ehrlich, and he wrote a book called The Population Bomb. And in it, he asserted that by the year 1980, the whole earth was going to be this megalopolis, like one huge city, that we were going to kill off all the fish in the ocean, and we wouldn't have any arable land to farm, to feed people, and there would be mass starvation and mass disease, and we were just going to kill ourselves off. Okay. Now, I lived through 1980. I was born in 1964, and I lived through 1980, and obviously that never happened, but his ideas are still stuck in the back of people's minds. This hysteria over climate change and all this stuff, okay? This is all based in this idea that human beings are going to grow to overpopulate the earth. In fact, a quote that is bantered around among elites and the people that actually believe this ideology is that human beings are a cancerous blight metastasizing the entire planet. Okay, that's what we see ourselves as. Okay, now, in this view, the preservation of the planet supersedes the needs of the humans who inhabit it, right? Now, Sir Thomas Malthus, like I said, this is an old idea, but Sir Thomas Malthus wrote the book Population, which Darwin read in October 1838, and this became his inspiration for the theory of evolution. Did you know that? Okay, anyway, Sir Thomas Malthus was steeped in this idea. And in his lifetime, social reformers or Christians believed that one should work to cure the ills of man, right? So that's a Christian ideal, isn't it? But Malthus believed that population regulated itself to a sustainable level via famine and disease. Therefore, the elites should allow populations to starve and die off naturally so that the earth could replenish itself, believe it or not. Anyway, so I'm going to show you a book that I have that I was so excited when it came out. I actually discovered it because I saw some interviews of the two authors on the internet, and I thought, I have to have this book. Let me get it. I'll show it to you. It is this book. It's called Superabundance. Okay. It is written by Marion L. Tupy and Gail L. Pooley. And these gentlemen are not necessarily Christians. As I've been reading it, I haven't seen any evidence of it. In fact, I think they're really evolutionists. They're probably atheists for all I know. I don't know that, but I mean, it's what it sounds like when I read the book. However, let me read the subtitle of this book. It's Super Abundance: The Story of Population Growth, Innovation, and Human Flourishing in an Infinitely Bountiful Planet. So this book goes through all kinds of charts and graphs and all kinds of stuff, and they pretty much disprove all the ideas of Paul Ehrlich when he wrote about the population bomb. And so I've been slowly reading little bits and snips and pieces out of this, and it's just amazing the things they talk about, because it just confirms everything God says in his word. Remember, he told Adam and Eve to multiply and fill the earth, and he's never rescinded that commandment. And it's really interesting. So anyway, there are so many scientific, statistical reasons that we should be open to having more children. But there's also so many other things that are important. There's the emotional side, the mental emotional side. People are so welcomed and warmed and comforted in families. When we're just single people, like Sex in the City, we just sleep around, do whatever we want to. We don't really form any permanent attachments based on anything. We become emotionally and spiritually and mentally very ill. But when we can bind together in the ties that a family creates, then there's something holy and happy that happens in our hearts. The Bible says God puts the lonely in families. It doesn't say God puts the lonely in an institution, or God puts the lonely in a bar, or it doesn't say that. It says God puts the lonely in families. Families are important to God's intentions. And see, having babies goes back to his intentions. If you have a car that's supposed to run on gasoline and you put Kool-Aid in the engine, what's going to happen? It's going to seize up. It's not going to work. Well, and you're not operating it according to what the manufacturer designed the car to do. And when we don't follow what God's intentions are, we're only going to cause ourselves pain and sorrow and all kinds of issues all over the place. But when we follow God's intentions, then we're going to find, everything's not going to be perfect, but we are going to have more of an opportunity to experience the peace, the joy, and the life that God intended us to have. And having children and being open to the children he wants to give us is part of that picture. Besides all this, there is one universal ideal that underlies everything: God's truth and his intentions. God loves people, and they are his treasure. We just read in Psalm 127, when I was reading from Spurgeon, that children are God's heritage. They are a heritage that belongs to God. He loves them. That's his heritage, right? And also, God created the heavens and the earth and all they contain for people, not the other way around. We're not a cancerous blight on the earth. We're actually, and according to this book I just talked to you about, human beings actually are good for the earth. I know that's not what we've heard, but it's the truth. Okay. Now there's some other things you can do. You can read to help you along this vein, to do some research on your own. And that one place is the Population Research Institute, and that's pop.org. And you can go to the overpopulation myth portion of this website, and it has all kinds of videos which you can watch, and they will be very informative. So I hope this kind of whets your appetite for this next season, that we're going to showcase the idea that we need more babies. And I think that I can really help a lot of the different hurdles we have to go through mentally and emotionally in order to overcome some of the biases and some of the defaults that we have in our minds that are not accurate. I'm hoping to dispel a lot of that stuff, but I'm going to do it with grace and understanding. So don't worry about it. This is not like in order to be holy, you have to have 15 kids. I'm not going to do that to you. So with that, now I want to announce officially that my Commonplace book number 2 has been published, and you can download it for free. I'm going to put the link to the blog post on my website that contains this free download. I'm going to put it below in the description. Also, You can purchase it online at Amazon.com. I'll add that below as well. And I'm really happy about this. So let me show you some of the cool things inside of it. So here is the cover. And I don't even have my own copy yet. Isn't that funny? But anyway, here is the cover for the new Commonplace book. I think it turned out pretty good. I really love doing these art projects. This is the title page, and you know, you can print for the printout, you can print as much as you don't have to print the color. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's a lot of color ink. But you can make this your cover, and your child can color it in and make it their own art, right? And here's this book belongs to, and the age that you start, the date you start, when you end. And here's instructions for the child and the mommy and the daddy. Here is the gallery of the winners of the contest. Remember, we had our contest and people did pages. Oh, they're so pretty. I just love them. And, you know, I have actually put the gallery of all the people who submitted their stuffs on my blog. It's actually a page. I don't know if I've published it yet, but I have it as a draft, and I'll probably publish it today when I finish editing this video. But anyway, here's a gallery, and here's the sample of all the pages that are included in this book that a child can use to fill in. This is the contents, just like in the first one. The first one is the primary one that, you know, I have a video on that, and I have that for free download also, and you can purchase it. And here is the first pages, and you see there's a lot more room for writing in these, and it doesn't have the dotted lines for the guides as the primary one for younger children. So this is for older children, for them to write and keep track of things. And you know, a Commonplace book is a place where you just put down information that you're interested in referring to later. And I know we call it notebooking too, and then in the homeschool world, we call it notebooking. But I think Commonplace book kind of makes it more real, you know, not so schoolish, not about just school, but about real learning, the real kind of learning that kids are going to do for the rest of their lives. So this is the one with the airplanes. And then this is the books page. This is a place where they can record what kind of books they've read. This was requested. Someone asked if I would put that in the books, and so now I have a place for that. And also I'm working on number 3, and number 3 will have also its own little flavor, and it'll be even a little more complicated with more room to write. And I'm having a lot of fun with that. So it's just so great. I just love it. And I'm hoping that not only will this series that I'm going to be doing, this unit study we're going to go into together on the population myth, having more babies, that type of thing. I hope it's something that you can take this information and pass it on to other people. You don't necessarily have to refer to my videos or my stuff. But, you know, it'll give you some information that you can share with others who've never heard this information before. They don't know about all the lies and all the misinformation that we've been taught in the programming. Honestly, it's like programming we've been given. So a lot of people are not aware of these facts and figures and realities. So I hope that you'll be able to share these with family and friends and teach them to your children. And let's take the opportunity. We're given some freedom for a time to operate to further the kingdom of God. Let's take this freedom and run with it. Let's try to undo some of the damage that has been done to us by taking things in our own hands and doing some of the hard lifting ourselves. Why don't we? Why don't we take responsibility? And that's what I want to do with this new set of podcasts. And one thing also I want to do is I want to start utilizing my account on Rumble. And so I will also be uploading, editing, and putting this video on Rumble. And in the future, when I get to some really controversial subjects, I might have an introduction on YouTube and then put the body of my podcast on Rumble instead of relying only on YouTube. I really don't make that much in revenue from YouTube anyway. I know I don't really work really hard to get a whole bunch of people to watch my videos, but anyway, so I don't really make a lot of revenue on YouTube anyway. So if I put it on Rumble, then at least it'll be a place where I won't be shut down, and I won't have strikes against me if I happen to touch on something that they conceive to be damaging to the democracy, which is really not very it's really stupid. But anyway, as I was moving on, anyway, I hope this blesses you. I hope you have a wonderful day. So like and subscribe and hit the bell so that you'll know when these things are coming out. And especially as I do also the book number 3, if you have older children, you'll want that one too. And, I'm also going to be developing I already said goodbye, but anyway. I'm also developing a book of lists and suggestions and ideas that will go along with these Commonplace books so that you'll have more structure and more ideas, but you'll still be able to have keep everything open-ended to have more fun. All right. So anyway, have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.